Look at that. This technology thing's an absolute doddle. Thanks, Laura and David and the Street Fight team. It's great to be here in New York, not least because it's a chance to warm up from the freezing week we've had in California. Look, I was originally going to do the standard corporate pitch about how great we are and how great our products are. That was back in October. And instead, I'm going to use the time to share some thoughts on where the local industry is today and where it might be going next. So I'll start with the sort of minute-long version of where we are now. So forgive me if I miss a detail or two. I think, as Laura said this morning, we're really in the infancy state, that state of chaos that all industries initially go through when nobody's really quite figured it out, but we're trying a lot of different things and trying to figure out where we go next and how it's all going to come together. There's a lot of little players in the space, a lot of startups taking many different approaches. Many of them are horizontally focused in one niche, be it reviews, payments, deals, as we just spoke about, loyalty, and so on. And a lot of others are taking a more vertical approach, guys like HomeAdvisor, who've been around for a while, or more recently, people like Uber. And some of these guys are having great success in their approach. Others, like Cherry, are finding that they're having to pivot and change their approach and take their learnings and look to what's next. And the big guys, as Laura mentioned this morning, are playing too. Google and Facebook, they're really coming into this space, and I think we're going to see that over the next couple of years. And for anyone in the room who missed it, mobile has, of course, exploded over the last couple of years. I think particularly with the maturing of the Android platform, and that really changes the nature of the game completely. So that's where we are. What's next? It's time for that next stage of evolution, as I said, as we all look at these different approaches and start figuring out what's going to stay the course. I was planning to get up here and be the guy who introduced everyone to the future today, but I've seen over this morning that we're all smart people and we're all sort of already halfway there. So if you could just concentrate on my accent, I promise you'll walk away thinking I said something intelligent. So it really works, I promise you. The first big thing I think we have to do is focus heavily on contextual awareness around the solutions that we're providing for consumers. And this really has to be the cornerstone of the user experience that we deliver. There's a lot of talk about focusing on the mobile form factor and using technologies like responsive design, but I think it's imperative to go a step further here. The technological capabilities are really coming together for the first time, and it's time for us to start embracing, as was referenced earlier, that holy grail of the right place, the right time, the right offer, and the right person. You have to solve for the individual, and you have to do it in a just-in-time fashion. The solution for me today and tomorrow may be different, and the solution for you and me for a simple exercise such as what's the best pizza in the Soho area is going to be different for each of us. There was a question earlier that someone asked in the audience about whether SMBs are ready to embrace this revolution as well. I was at Yahoo 8 or 9 years ago, I think, and at that point they most certainly weren't. It was a big challenge to get them on board with local and self-serve and so on. But I can safely say that that's really starting to change. And if you want to win in this space, you really need to be ahead of that trend rather than having to follow it later. So, get on board and embrace that. Needless to say, as I said, mobile is, of course, going to be a massive part of all that coming together. And it's critical to understand here, I'm talking about the use case rather than simply the form factor of mobile. We're moving towards a permanently connected world, and one in which your mobile device, is really a natural extension of you. As Walt said in the morning keynote, right, your phone is never more than 3 feet away, and that's probably only when you have your morning shower. I read a stat a couple of weeks ago that 2/3 of us apparently have naked pictures of ourselves on our devices. So if it's not you, you may want to look either side of you and take a peek. Wow. Okay, a couple of you looked. Interesting. But it's a great opportunity because in conjunction with that, the capabilities in the mobile ecosystem are really evolving. Mobile payments, as we've heard, are gradually becoming a reality. And what that starts to do is it allows us to create that complete on-the-go experience and make that feasible, where we can close the loop, where previously with mobile, we pretty much had to cut you short where the capabilities cease to exist. So we now know exactly where you are, when you are, and a whole lot about what you're doing and what you've done in the past. And for the first time, that set of data is moving with you at all times. So that's the world in the scenario that we've got to be solving for, which means local has to dramatically evolve from being a highly commoditized data-oriented business, right? Starbucks is around the corner. It's open from 8 to 10 p.m. I don't drink coffee. I don't really know. But it serves coffee. And we all know that, and we can all tell you that, maybe with a little different flourish, but the fundamentals of that are all the same. And I think the way I see it, we've historically thought about our job as helping people find local. And that's what search is about, right? It's finding things. But I think we have to look further ahead. Wiley spoke in the previous panel about half of local search being non-specific and discovery-oriented. And that stat absolutely holds true from our perspective at YP as well. But I think our job is not just about moving to discovery. What it is, or what it should be, is really helping people decide and achieve their goals. And finding and discovering are just a part of that process. So I don't know how many of you in the room are familiar with the no user interface concept. Not many. But Don Norman said, and this was in the pre-internet era, that the best interface is to actually have no interface whatsoever. And I strongly believe that in local, it's important for us to drive towards minimal user interface in order to maximize user experience. So as an example, right, my brother lives in New York, and I want to have dinner with him tonight. My objective there is not to find or discover what the best or most appropriate restaurants in New York are. It's to have a great meal with my brother and sister-in-law. And those of us in the business need to be thinking along those lines as we're delivering the solution here. If we get it right, I'm sitting somewhere with great food and great company, or at least with my brother. But today, that doesn't happen without a whole lot of work on my part. I've got to dig through and find restaurants that match my needs, and I've got to go somewhere else potentially to book the table. And I know because I went through that experience yesterday to try and get that set up. And we have to change that and get to that goal-oriented experience and minimize the work I have to do to get to where I'm trying to get. So how do you make that happen? I can't answer that in a 10-minute talk, and only time will probably tell if I can answer that at all. But it is really part and parcel of the industry maturing and going past that inflection point that we're at today. It's not something we should be concerned about so much as excited to be on the forefront of. We're highly commoditized today, as I said. The differences between a lot of solutions, be it a YP, a Yelp, a Google, or someone else, is really one of user interface and visual design. And tomorrow that needs to be differentiation around experience. And to create that goal-oriented experience, there's going to be a lot of consolidation in the industry, as Laura hinted at this morning. And I'm not just talking about M&A activity there, but individual players starting to expand vertically to provide those full solutions that don't just point merchants and consumers towards one another, but actually connect them and enable them to manage that connection and maintain it. And it's not an easy challenge, right? As we heard from Belly and with the fat jokes, that for the small guys, it's not easy to get in there and be a part of this industry. But it's not easy for us as the big guys either, right? We've got to understand what we bring to the table and really reinvent ourselves accordingly. I think this quote from Abraham Lincoln really sums it up. You have to do your own growing. Doesn't matter how tall your grandfather was. We can't rest on our laurels there. So when that all comes together, what's the type of experience that we want to be able to live? I really like what Aaron said earlier from City Maps, because I think the experience he was driving at is exactly where I feel as an industry we need to be going towards. And what I'd like to see, I don't know how clearly it comes up on the screen, but ideally I clock off work before 7 on a Friday evening, and YP knows that I tend to eat out on Fridays after work. And it should be able to anticipate this. My phone should buzz at that point. I look at it, and it says, yep, it's dinner time. So I unlock it, and I've got some tailored choices for me. The app knows I'm into cheap beer, or as my wife would say, cheap anything. And Mark's Pub is having a really slow night for some reason, and they're offering half off. I go there a lot, so with one click, I should be able to book my table, order ahead, have my payment taken care of. And all of a sudden, rather than searching, finding, and going through this whole convoluted process, you've taken me straight to my objective and goal. And if you're presenting me with options, maybe my wife is out eating sushi with my kid. She didn't tell me, but YP's onto her. And with one click, I get the directions, and I know where to find her. And it's personal, it's contextual, and it's real time. And that same premise holds whether I'm looking for food, I'm trying to find a plumber to fix the clogged drain, or repair a broken windshield. So thank you very much. I'll be around the rest of the day if anyone wants to chat, or you can find me online. And if you find me on Twitter, please bear with me, because I'm just finding myself there as well. All right, thanks very much.